Good evening, Internet. How's it going? It is the 3rd, I think, or the 2nd of November 2011, and I was just sitting here in the basement and just kind of thinking of a few things. In the news recently, it was stated that the world's population has reached 7 billion people, which, is a significant growth compared to many years previous. And I was just thinking, from that point sort of spawned a number of things. Namely, how are we going to deal with the population that we have right now? A few of the options that sort of ran through my head was if we could limit the number of children that people are having, would that benefit the world somehow? If you think about it, if every single person in the world right now that had the ability, that did have the ability to have children, stopped having children for just 10 years, that effect alone might be so profound, because if you think about it, it's going to be a phase shift. If the people who can have children right now stop having children and don't have any children, and of course their children don't have any children for 10 years, there's going to be a lot of other people, mainly the older people, that are all going to die. And it's going to be a slow progression. But talking about death and population control was not one of the main things I wanted to discuss tonight. One other thing I wanted to discuss was, I was thinking, I came up with this analogy. Sorry, I can't really. I came up with this analogy, and it's basically, I think of the world as, one big Monopoly board, as it seems. Okay, so if you can imagine this, you're playing a game of Monopoly with 4 players, right? There's a set amount of cash, and there's a set amount of properties, and obviously there's a set amount of players. Now, it is possible in the game for all the money to balance out, and it also is possible in the game for one player to have the most amount of money, or 2 players having an extremely large portion of the wealth, either properties or money, and having the other 2 people or players not having very much property or money. And I think in a way, why I view the world as a closed system is because we can only produce so much money, without taking into effect, like, the more money we make, it decreases the value of the currency, without even any regard to that. Saying we have a set amount of money and a set amount of resources on this planet, we are technically an enclosed system. If we mine all of our material, we can only mine so much of it and use that, trade it, or and do things with it, turn it into other forms, or turn iron ore into iron metal or something, processing wise, and taking those structures, melting them back down, and reusing them. Either which way you look at it, we have a finite number of resources, not including things like hydrogen, which is just available. But anyway, back to my Monopoly board analogy. If the world was a Monopoly board, which in a sense it is, I hope I'm clear, but we have places like the United States, which is a very wealthy country, and we have places like Canada, which is also very wealthy. But we also have places like Africa and India, where their people are starving and are obviously not wealthy and, you know, are not able to get the basic necessities that they need to live. You know, and if we help out those countries, which would be the better thing to do, because, you know, with the U.S., the economy the way it is, they're talking about, you know, cutting their costs and basically trying to stop helping, you know, the less developed countries. But is that really the right way to go? Because if you think about it, China, a long time ago, was, you know, it was a country that was not really well off. But since every country, or most big countries or wealthy countries, are outsourcing to China and to Taiwan and all these other countries, they've actually made those countries a very, very wealthy place. And, you know, with that wealth, you know, the people there have the ability to employ their people. They also have the ability to educate their people, and they have the ability to feed their people. You know, obviously, the bottom line is, the more money those countries have, the more happier lives the citizens of that country will live. Now, in the terms of the monopoly board analogy, if you have a country like the US and like Canada going up against a country that is less developed, you know, if we help those countries, and, you know, so the people are not starving and not dying, right? Then they have the opportunity to actually eat and be educated, and they can learn, and they can be employed. And with that employment rate in the poor countries, you know, manufacturing increases, and that's, you know, things like that increase. Products increase, so exports increase. And as a result of their exports increasing, their income increases. So there's a trade. There's a trade of money. There's a trade of material. There's a trade of the raw goods and the resources that country possesses or manufactured, because they have the capability now to do so and the education required to do so. There's trading of money. Likewise, in monopoly, there's trading of money and property. Here it'd be trading of money and resources. Property, resources, same thing. And so a big part of the wealth, take the US for example, could be shifted over to poor countries in return for exports. And that would balance out, you know, how much money is distributed in the world. So rather than having a few select countries have the most amount of money, and then the poor countries starving and dwindling, that wealth could be spread, and then there's, you know, it's not like saying the wealthier countries are giving the poor countries all the money, and the wealthier countries are not getting anything in return. That's false, because they are actually getting the raw, the goods. Everything is being traded, and everything is equal and fair. So, in this gigantic game of Monopoly, I think it's safe to say that everything could level out. But, you know, obviously there's a lot more factors in there, and things do take time. Like, for instance, it took, you know, almost a good number of decades for China to get where it's at right now. But, you know, it could happen. And, you know, and everybody's trying to reduce poverty and reduce the number of people dying. You know, it's very possible. But do you think it's set up in such a way that makes this impossible or not favorable as we're trying to secretly control world population? How do all these topics relate together? I mean, I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that. I'm trying to keep this video really short. I mean, we're kicking in at 10 minutes right now, but I just want to throw a few of those ideas out there and see what people come up with. What are your thoughts? And let me know. Leave a comment. Thank you.